Hello everyone. Today I'm going to recap the movie titled Bronson. In a solitary prison cell, Charles Bronson prepares for a visit from the guards. He is completely naked, and his body is covered in some oily substance with blood flowing from a cut on his head. But this is all nothing when there is an opportunity to fight with the guards. The guards never came alone when interacting with Charles Bronson, and this time several of them burst in together. Bronson fought back desperately, but they managed to overpower him. Before Charles Bronson got his nickname and became Britain's most famous prisoner, he was known as Michael Gordon Peterson. Michael was born into an ordinary middle-class family. However, even as a schoolboy he discovered some inclinations in himself, such as a tendency toward violence, and a desire to become famous. At school, Michael enjoyed beating up teachers and other students, but he wasn't punished for that at home.
Mrs. Peterson, I really must talk to you about being up.
When Michael got a job, he started stealing from the cash register, and when the police came to question him, he attacked them with his fists. In the mid-70s, Michael got married and had a child. His family lived in poverty, so he decided to get some money by robbing a post office. He didn't find much money there, but for armed robbery Michael received 7 years in prison. At the trial, his mother promised Michael that he would be released in 4 years. However, Michael enjoyed being in prison so much that he decided to extend his sentence by assaulting the guards and prison staff. He deliberately refused to learn a new trade in the sewing shop so that the prison officials would try to force him to do what they wanted. Whenever the guards came, he would beat them up, and he himself also received his fair share of beatings. Due to his behavior in prison, Michael became a true legend. Other inmates feared and respected him. In prison, Michael not only enjoyed fighting but also made useful connections and met a future nightclub owner when he treated him to tea. To prevent Michael from getting too comfortable in one prison and to give the guards some break, he was frequently transferred. In each new prison, Michael caused the same problems as he did in the previous ones. Newspapers began to write about him, and Michael realized that his dream had come true. He had become famous. When the prison officials ran out of patience, Michael was sent to the place he should have been sent to from the very beginning, a mental hospital. Michael didn't like it there, as the patients weren't sociable at all. The workers didn't respect him, and they injected him with all sorts of medication that caused him to become dehydrated due to excessive salivation. Eventually, he refused to take the pills on principle. However, he wasn't in a prison where the guards would fight him to make him do something. In the mental hospital, they simply immobilized him and injected the medicine intramuscularly. After spending some time in the hospital, Michael finally became obedient and quiet. He wasn't even interested in the dances organized for the patients. The only thing Michael wanted was to escape from this place as far as possible. He managed to put his plan into action by choking one of the patients, which resulted in him being transferred to another clinic. However, this wasn't what Michael wanted. He was convinced that his violence towards other patients would get him sent back to prison. Instead, he was put in solitary confinement for 26 years without trial or investigation. In this facility, Michael caused riots and disorder that led to unnecessary expenses and waste of money, so it was decided to declare him mentally healthy and later he was released. Michael, now completely sane and rational, was met by his elderly parents, who brought him to their home and gave him a small room. However, Michael was not satisfied with his new room. He wanted his old bed and his old belongings. To make a change in his life, Michael visits Uncle Jack. His uncle knew many influential people and could help his nephew who was trying to start over. At Uncle Jack's house, Michael was warmly welcomed, offered a cocktail, and they promised to help him. Michael stayed with his uncle, and later found out where to find his old acquaintance, with whom he had a good relationship in prison. Now, his old friend owned a nightclub that resembled more of a brothel. However, he had a job for Michael. Michael could only use his fists to punch people in the face, and that was the type of job his friend offered him. He also advised Michael to change his name to something more brutal and fearsome, as fighting under the name Michael Peterson seemed rather unimpressive. This was the moment he became Charles Bronson. Michael chose this nickname because it was the name of a real actor who had impressed his audiences by portraying brutal and fearsome characters. Michael started living with a girl named Allison. She had a boyfriend, but Michael didn't really care about it. His old friend arranged underground fights for him, where Michael had to put on a show for the crowd to stand out. So he urinated on his opponents, fought against two at once, and even had matches against fighting dogs. Michael started earning good money from the fights, but not good enough to buy Allison a ring. Later, he confessed his love to her, and when he learned that she loved someone else, he got angry and went to a jewelry store, where he simply took a ring he liked from the display case. Allison didn't appreciate the gift and informed Michael that she was going to marry her boyfriend. and Michael was later sent back to prison for the jewelry store robbery. He returned to a place where he felt comfortable with a sense of relief, as he was still a famous figure there. In total, Michael spent only 69 days out of the prison. When he was brought before the prison warden, the warden paid close attention to the notorious inmate. He would closely monitor Michael's life. But Michael didn't like this arrangement and soon got bored with the place, so he decided to spice up his time in prison once again. When a local library worker comes to Michael's cell with books, Bronson immediately takes him hostage. He then informs the guards and demands they bring him a phone so he can speak directly to the prison warden. Michael promises him that he will kill the librarian if he doesn't get what he needs. And he needs only one thing: a good fight. The warden can easily arrange that, so he agrees. After receiving a clear explanation of Bronson's needs, the warden sends guards to Michael's cell to deal with him. Michael is also not a fool, no matter what the doctors from the mental hospital might say. He knows that his guests are on their way, and therefore prepares for their visit. He has to look presentable, as befits the hospitable owner of the cell. Bronson takes off all his clothes, smears himself with oil to make it difficult for the guards to hold him down, also makes the librarian smear his back.
Quicker! 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 Quicker!
Eventually, he welcomes the guards with open arms. The guards didn't hold back either and gave Bronson a good beating. They treated him according to all the rules of the prison. After the beating, Michael was visited by the prison warden, who made it clear that if he didn't stop behaving this way, he would die in prison. Michael took the warden's words as a sufficient reason to calm down for a while. After serving his time in solitary confinement, Michael began attending art classes in prison. He even discovered his talent for visual arts and drawing. Michael's drawings were unique, but they did not interest the art club leader. However, thanks to this man's encouragement, Bronson continued to draw. The club leader even tried to show Michael's drawings to the prison warden. He wanted to help Bronson get released earlier, but the inmate's artwork didn't impress him. The club leader tells Michael that if he behaves quietly and continues attending the art classes, he might be released soon. Realizing that he might actually be released, Bronson returned to his old habits. However, this time he showcased his creative side. While the club leader was preparing tea for him, Michael grabbed and tied him up. He then got naked again, smeared himself with black paint, put on glasses and a hat, and waited for the guards. When the prison warden arrived, Michael asked for music to be played for him. Enjoying the pleasant melody, Bronson got to work. He made fun of his captive, painted his face, and drew eyes on his eyelids. When he got bored of tormenting his victim, Michael let the guards in and had a long and intense fight with them. The battle was fierce, and afterward, Bronson was convinced he would never get out of prison. In the end, the prison fulfilled all of Michael Peterson's desires. He became famous under the nickname Charles Bronson, and regularly satisfied his craving for fights. At the time of filming the movie about him, Michael had spent 34 years in prison, with 30 of those years in solitary confinement. His release date remains unknown to this day. Charles Bronson was recognized as the most violent and famous prisoner in the United Kingdom.